Welcome back, everybody. I'm Nick Matson with LQ Commercial Real Estate Services, and this is Behind the Broker series. And I'm here with the one and only Carson Baird. The LinkedIn phenomenon, the influencer on LinkedIn. I don't know.
Mustache twin dad broker.
So this is I've been waiting to do this interview for a while, actually. So I'm excited. I guess first question, how long have you been doing commercial real estate?
Yeah, so I've been in commercial brokerage full time for a little over 3.5 years, all of which was with LQ Commercial. Started commercial real estate a little bit before that from a development and entitlement side of the business, where was trying to acquire and develop properties for a specific national occupier. But in terms of full-time brokerage, I'd say about 3.5 years.
Okay, so that kind of just rolls into the next question I have for you is like, what were you doing before commercial real estate? I guess the 5 years prior. Maybe.
Yeah, so Jan 1 of 2015, moved down to Southwest Florida for a job in B2B tech sales, working for a great company that brought a lot of younger people down here. Learned a lot about some really great fundamental B2B sales techniques, and that's where I actually got on LinkedIn for the first time, in a professional sense. So spent a lot of time getting to know that platform, figuring out what works, what doesn't for me. That ran its course over a 2 to 3 year period. Then I joined an equipment rental group on the operations side, a big national company where I managed product lines of physical equipment that would get deployed to these Tier 1 cities, New York City, Chicago, Seattle, Toronto, and got to travel to a lot of really cool locations to set up and educate the local sales teams on how to operate that equipment in these Tier 1 markets, things that are going in high rises. So a lot of fun there, but eventually that had slowed down and found myself at a point in my career where I said, look, I think I want something different, and found my way into commercial real estate from there.
Okay, so that's a great answer. I guess what first sparked your interest though? Like you were doing that before, but what sparked your interest into going into commercial?
Yeah, for me, I actually grew up around a lot of commercial real estate. My parents were entrepreneurs in the auto body space. So, I have a natural draw to industrial type uses, and it started at birth.
Which we were just talking about yesterday.
Yeah,
I just found out.
Yeah. So, my dad owned a few locations around Atlanta, eventually sold his company when I was relatively young, but we always said we wanted to work together. So fast forward, having my kind of quarter life crisis after a few years in these larger corporate roles, and found ourselves in a position to say, hey, well, why don't we work together? I'll get my license. We'll try and put some deals together for this company that we were already tied in with, and found out really 1,000 different ways to not do a deal. I had no mentorship at the time. I was making it up on the fly. I hung my license with a residential guy I played soccer with. Like, it was completely ineffective.
Okay.
Fast forward a few years, COVID hits, our pipeline dries up because everything got more expensive, from land, construction, existing site, everything. And they were fairly rigid, so we couldn't really do any of those anymore. And that's what drove me to say, all right, look, this has been great as a foundation for me, but I need to go learn the fundamentals of this job, get a real mentor, and learn how commercial brokers operate when done properly.
Okay, that literally goes into the next thing I was going to ask you. So this is perfect. Obviously, I'm like 4 or 5 months in.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm still learning a lot. I have a great mentor with Mike. And that the next question, like when you were first starting off, I guess with LQ.
Yep.
Right. Did you have a mentor? And what do you think for anybody that's new getting a mentor?
Yeah, I think that having the right mentor is as important, or possibly even more important, than the brokerage itself that you choose. And being candid, after interviewing with a few different companies, what really drove me to LQ was the ability to work with Mike Price, who was my mentor. Even though I didn't have a whole lot of experience in land, he was the director of our land division, but I felt a good connection with him. I felt that this was somebody that would be willing to invest the time and energy to get me on my feet fully in this industry. And then from there, I could determine, what I really wanted to do as as an established agent. So it was critical for me to find somebody that I could align with, because I had already failed so much on the development, entitlement, site selection side before that. So I said, all right, well, I've taken my licks, but I need somebody that can take that pain, mold it, and create a broker that will be successful.
Okay, so you started off failing a lot, then you came here. You got the.
I think everyone does in this
right?
industry. So
I guess because what was the time you in commercial real estate so far?
Yeah, so February of 22 is when I joined LQ, which coincidentally was, I think, when interest rates started going up, like the very same month. So I tell people that was my bad.
Perfect timing.
Sorry for turning the faucet off. But yeah, so, and then I had a couple of years of experience with the development stuff before that, which did come in handy. I mean, all those failures and lessons, like, I'll never forget them, and they'll always be there while I'm doing my job currently. It makes me a better broker. You have to fail. But it wasn't until I had Mike to help turn that information into ability and really be able to utilize those lessons.
Okay, perfect. And that goes into, how long did it take you to feel confident in what you're doing?
Yeah.
Like right now, obviously, for me, newer people, it's hard to be creative. I feel like being yourself. I feel like when I talk to people, my full personality can't come out because I'm like reserved. What would you say time frame wise it took you to feel like, okay, I'm in a good spot. I feel like I can be myself?
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking from the moment I got into any kind of commercial real estate, it was probably 2.5 to 3 years. But I think that timeline got extended because I didn't have anybody there to help guide me. I was just making it up. From the time I got to LQ, I think is more relevant. That was probably 6 to 12 months. And there were probably 1 or 2 milestones I hit in there where I said, wait, I can actually do this. You need those milestone moments, confidence builders, so that you can get off of that, oh, I'm the greenhorn. I've never done these deals. So you just constantly having to fight yourself in your own head and with that anxiety of, can I do this job?
Yes.
Have a couple of wins under your belt, have a couple of success stories that you can use to then ramp up your activity, spin the narrative around it, and have a good, outreach program. There's all sorts of momentum that, once you're on your feet and getting moving, can snowball quickly if you're thinking about things the right way. So 6 to 12 months for me as a new broker. At that point, I felt very confident in my ability to do the job effectively for the people that I want to serve. And I also didn't feel this desperation for getting a commission or validation that, I'm doing the job right. I had the knowledge that, okay, I'm doing this right, and I can deliver value when reaching out and, making the request for people's business.
Okay, because I feel like that's one of the hardest parts for me. Like, I'm feeling good with doing the landlord rep, getting the tenants into smaller spaces. Like, I'm starting to understand how that whole process works. And I'm like, okay, I've done a couple now, like 4 or 5. But reaching out to someone on, like, let's say a cold call, because we talk about that a lot with calling people and building your network and your pipeline and stuff. That's where I'm having, say someone wants to sell their building or someone, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's where I'm struggling with now learning.
Right. Yeah. And that's going to feel heavier because it's something that you haven't done before, but I don't think that there's any difference in going and getting the assignment for a 1,500 square foot lease versus a 30,000 square foot multi-tenant office space. Are there some intricacies to it? Yes. But I think what's more important is understanding fundamentally finding a need, finding an urgency to do something about it, and then finding and being the solution for that need. Those fundamentals don't really change, whether it's leasing, tenant rep, landlord rep, investment sales, whatever it is. You still have a problem, you have an urgency to solve that problem, and then you, as the solution, are the one that's there to fix the problem. We were talking about mentorship a minute ago, and something that I really didn't have a good grasp on was land in my specific case, where I don't know about what a multifamily garden style apartment buyer is looking for in a piece of land. But
Right.
if I'm calling on a landlord or an owner of a piece of land working with price, rather than sell my capabilities of doing that job effectively, knowing that I'm not the best guy in town to do it, I do know the guy who's the best guy in town to do it.
Yes.
So rather than
Yep.
selling my capabilities as a broker, recognize my position on the team and sell the team, because there
Right.
are experts on your team that can make sure that you're doing this job as well as anybody in the market, even if it's not just you doing it. That's okay.
Right.
People sell team solutions all the time. Every major brokerage in America does it. So don't be afraid to sell that individual as opposed to selling yourself as the answer.
And then being able to learn from those experiences.
Right. And the
after
whole
time.
time you're giving yourself more opportunities to shadow and watch experts in, their environment do their thing. And that was such a big part of, my development, was doing the whole crawl, walk, run, where you're watching a little bit and then you're starting to get involved in implementing some of this stuff, and then it's something where you're going and putting into practice independently. And that at that moment you said, okay, wait, I can do this. Like, I
Right.
don't need anybody else's support. I can actually make it in this industry after doing that kind of process.
Perfect. I really like that. That's kind of how I feel like where I'm at right now. Just slow and steady learning, taking those steps.
Similar to me, you've got a great mentor. You've got somebody that is willing to give you all of their 30 years of experience, both in brokerage and development and, civil planning and all of this. Like, there's a wealth of knowledge there. And rather than try and reinvent the wheel, why not leverage that as much as you can and do deals together? I'd much rather do that than try and fight my way through
Yeah.
and fake being an expert while not really having my client's best interest at heart, because I know I'm not the best fit to do that side of brokerage because I'm not the pro yet.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I guess the last question that I have for you is, if you could go back to your first year, right? And maybe it's starting at LQ or before, what is something you would do differently?
I think for me, and it's an ongoing struggle as a fellow card carrier of people with ADD, staying organized. I think that I would have found, I wish I could have gone back and found what I wanted to do quicker. Like, I told myself at the beginning, I was going to do one of every deal. And then as I'm progressing, make a call on what path I want to. I would have made that call earlier, and I would have put a database together of every individual that has a property that I may transact on at some point. That would be anybody in Lee, Collier, and Charlotte County that owns an industrial property above, X acres or square feet, and set up a real clean process on how I'm going to reach those individuals and what value I'm going to provide to them. I think there are markets where it makes sense to be a generalist, but in our market, which I think is highly evolved over the last 10 years, I don't think the generalist model works as well anymore, as we see specialist teams continue to scale and dominate in their respective market share. There's two industrial teams that take 85% of our market share in our market, and trying to compete directly with them as an individual that also does retail and
Yep.
land deals, it's a really difficult proposition if you're pitching against one of those groups. So I would have specialized earlier. I would have put a real clean process together to be that expert in that specialty, and think that would have yielded some really strong results. It is now, but
Yeah.
it's something that I could have definitely jumped into earlier.
Nice. I like that answer. I'm definitely going to have to figure out how much or what I want to go into.
What do you want to do when
exactly.
you grow up in commercial
Right.
brokerage? Is
And
the
when you don't,
question.
and when you don't know anything about it, or you only know so much, I mean, like, to learn about land and never have done a land deal, or
Right.
know that that's what you want, I guess it takes some time.
There's some level of fake it till you make it with any kind of profession where you're trying to make yourself uncomfortable and go do the things that you may not feel like you're ready to do. But there's also the ability to do that and put yourself out there while having the ability to deliver on the services that you're trying to put out there. So know that you've got a great backstop and a professional that will deliver on the services, your role as a junior is to get in front of as many people as possible, get the reps, learn how to do the job effectively, and you will continue to grow, as every single conversation you have is going to give you more knowledge, more expertise, more data on the market.
Right.
Then you can start referencing those when you're calling different people and say, well, no, I know, I did a deal with the guy 2 doors down from me. I know exactly who you're talking about. Like, how are the kids? Whatever. All of that information will start to compound on itself as you become more and more of a market expert by calling more and more people.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, man.
Yeah,
I
of course,
appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching the Behind the Broker series. I got I think I got to interview your mentor or
Yeah.
Price, and then we'll start with episode 2, and we'll start going into like what field you're in and more in detail questions about what you're doing.
Perfect.
So
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Thank you guys. Hope you're doing well. I will put Carson's information down in the description below and tag him so you guys can follow him and go check out his stuff. He's always posting on LinkedIn.
Yep, LinkedIn, and as of a month ago, I'm now on Twitter or X, so you can find me there as well.
Let's go. All right, thanks, man.
Yeah, man, of course.
See you guys.